Ayo, it is Izuro Senpai here, and today we are doing another what if. This what if happens to be, what if Natsu had fire and Iron Dragon Slayer magic? And, well, I'm a little bit annoyed right now, because this is my, sixth time trying to record this, because my phone kept cutting out like crazy, and I didn't want that many cutouts in this. So let's hopefully this time it doesn't cut out. But now, Natsu and Wendy, they were at that town last part, and Natsu stopped the fight. This fight being between two guild members of different guilds, and they almost killed someone, and this someone happened to be part of a family that was standing there. And Natsu, he did protect them because he knows how it is to lose family. After he did that, the team left the town and kept moving on. As Natsu and Wendy are walking along the road, they start hearing a carriage. So they run up the mountain with the road, and they look down and they see a carriage going up it. And as it reaches the top, Wendy, Natsu, and Egio and the two extras were waiting at the top for them. As they stop the wagon and they ask the people that are in the wagon, Natsu says, hi, I wanted to know if any of you have seen a flute. I think the flute is like gray, or if it's not, then whatever. It's a gray flute with a wind symbol on it, the marking of the wind god, as you could say, as some people see it. As they look down at Natsu, as they're higher up because they're on the carriage, and they say, yes, now that you mention it, I think I've seen a flute like that somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, though. I think it was in Noron. As Natsu says, thank you, better than nothing. At least we'll have a maybe in a place of where it could have been. As the lady that's on the carriage says, yes. Have a safe trip, young ones. As she's older than them, say 60, older person. As the lady and her carriage move on. As Wendy turns around to Natsu and says, hey, Dragon, we found it. Maybe. As Natsu's like, yeah, we might have found it. We can't be sure yet, because the lady did say she's pretty sure she saw it there. She said pretty sure, so that means not 100% sure. But it's a lead nonetheless, so we're heading to Noron. And by the way, that's just a made-up name I made for a town, because I can't remember any of the towns in this. I don't really care. It's a what if, so their name's gonna be completely different for all. If I wanted to do, I could literally wipe out all magic in this world, which I'm not going to do, because, but I'm saying I could do that because it's a what if, but I'm not doing that. But as Natsu and Wendy, they start traveling again, and it becomes nightfall, and they do set up their tents, and as this time, Wendy and Natsu do have different tents, as they made sure to pack the right number of tents. And after they're all settled and about to head to sleep, Natsu gets up and heads into the woods and tells everyone he's going to go collect firewood. Hey, guys, I'm going to go collect firewood. I'll be right back. Okay, as Egil says. And then Natsu walks into the woods. And he just collects wood, enough to bring back and start a fire. As there was some wood already there that they brought in from the forest, but he wanted to have a little bit extra to be sure that it would burn more of the night. so they could stay warm. As Natsu gets back, he sets the wood down and stacks it in like a teepee-like form. Not teepee, he stacks it in like stacks of firewood. And he's trying to be quiet because people are sleeping right now because it's still late. As after he does that, he goes over to his tent, crawls in, and starts to fall asleep. So he falls asleep, but an hour later, actually we'll go, okay, we'll say, I'm gonna go Wendy's perspective, okay? And by the way, anyone that's saying, oh, they should be sleeping in the same tent, you know, don't worry. I'm doing something here. As you guys remember, Wendy's nightmares I spoke of once. I haven't decided what it's going to be of because I haven't got far enough in the story to actually know Wendy that much, because I haven't even met her in the storyline, just seen a few clips, so I know enough. So I'm just gonna make up a backstory. It's easier to do this instead of go through the whole anime and then wait to finish the whole anime and then have to come back about probably a few months later and then do this video because I forget everything about it. But as we go to Wendy's perspective, Wendy, at first, when she lays down, when she first lays down, before Natsu got back from the woods in this one, as she lays on the ground in her tent and covers herself up with her blanket, she closes her eyes and drifts off to sleep. But as she's sleeping, she starts having a dream. You know, just a regular dream, nothing bad. Just a dream of her parents. But I'm making up a backstory. I don't know if I said that. I know I said something about backstories, but I'm not sure if I said I'm making up one, but I'm making up a backstory. As she's laying down and she starts having a dream of her parents. Of her when she was a lot smaller, a little bit before she met Jalal. And as she, in this dream, is at a restaurant with her parents, and she's sitting down with them, and she's like 4 years old at this time, in this dream, and Wendy, she's having fun at first, you know, smiling happily, and I'll be right back, because I gotta check something, give me a sec. False alarm, sorry. But as Wendy is all happy, and hanging out with her parents in her dream, on the outside, out of her dream, she's smiling. But as she does that, all of a sudden, everything disappears. And she starts looking in shock, as all she sees around her is a dark void. And then she ends up in let's say guild hall with one of the merchant guilds. As in now, she's been aged up to a regular age, as she's standing over her parents' bodies, as they were actually killed by mercenaries that came to rob the guild, as her parents tried to protect everyone, but they failed because a mage that uses earth magic had taken them out. It wasn't just any earth magic though. Think about Overhaul almost, except the only thing that this person can control is things that deal with the earth in the ground, like metal, dirt, rock, things like that. So it's a unique one, so if she ever runs into this person, she'll know exactly who it is. As she starts crying in her dream and outside of her dream, as all of a sudden a light bright surrounds her instead of a void, and she's wondering what's going on as she drops back into a forest where a man walks up to her with blue hair and a mark on his face. This man, being Jalal, reaches out his hand and says, "Hi, little girl. Are you lost?" As Wendy reaches to take his hand as he disappears. Because we'll say that Jalal, or not Jalal, sorry. His name is Mystican. But as she reaches out, the man disappears. As she starts crying even more. When what happened to him, and we'll cover that later actually. As he disappears, and she's crying. As she wakes up in a cold sweat, and is like breathing really heavily. Why? Why that stupid dream again? As the dream represents the loss of her parents and Mystigan. As more had happened, but she hadn't got to it because she woke up. As she's like, as she goes over to the tent door and opens it and gets out and walks over to Natsu's tent and grabs a zipper of the tent. As we go to Natsu's perspective again, right after he laid down about an hour later. As the door, the zipper opens to his tent, he's sleeping, he doesn't know what's going on because he doesn't even know someone's there. As Wendy crawls into the tent and lays down and puts her head on his back. And as she does this, Natsu gets woken up about 2 minutes later after Wendy has fallen asleep and Wendy moved a little bit. We'll say that before, as soon as she lays down, she wakes up Natsu. And Natsu wakes up and looks at Wendy. Hey, Wendy, what are you doing in here? We have our own tents, you know. And I know, but can I please stay with you? Just for the night? As Wendy has a really sad look on her face as Natsu, or Drakon as he's referred to right now, sees this as she's like, yes, I'll allow you to stay with me tonight. As he lays back down and Wendy just cuddles into his back as Wendy falls asleep, and so does Natsu. As they wake up, and Wendy wakes up first, and she sits up, she's like, so it was him stop my dreams, huh? As she didn't have any dreams that night. The only dreams she had were good ones of her parents, except she didn't see any gore, just all happy times. All happy times with Mystigan. She didn't see one drop of blood, no one yelling, just laughter. And she was happy about this. As she gets up and walks out of the tent, trying to make sure no one notices her because one of the extras that are on their team is a girl. Actually, we'll say, yeah, it's a girl, I think. We'll say there's a girl there now, yeah. And there's a girl there, and that girl is like Mina from My Hero Academia with her, you have this crush, you know that crush, all those like TikToks and puns and jokes and everything on YouTube and all that. She's like that, but we'll just call her Extra because I ain't gonna remember any names and I don't want to take any more names from any other anime away. Because, you know. But she wants to sneak out of the tent without her noticing because she knows exactly what will happen. As she sneaks out and heads to her tent and lays down for a few, thinking. And we're switched to Natsu as Natsu wakes up and he sees that Wendy's gone. He sits up and he's like, so what happened with her last night anyways? Her face was really sad for some reason. As Natsu says to himself, I'll ask her later when we're alone, because he doesn't want to In case it's something personal, he doesn't want to bring it up in everyone else, because everyone else will try to pry and find out. And she might not want that, so he's trying to think of her feelings. As he gets up and he walks over to her tent and says, can I come in? Or open the tent? As he hears a voice inside. Yes. So he unzips the tent and says, you okay? I just want to make sure you're okay. Last night you had a pretty sad look on your face. I just want to make sure that nothing bad happened. As Wendy looks at him and says, yeah, just a dream. That's all. As she knows it wasn't just a dream, it was her past coming back to her again. As she wants to forget a lot of her past, the only thing she does not want to forget are the facts of her good memories with Michigan, her parents, and especially with the boy she knew as Natsu before he died too. As before, Wendy saw Natsu as family. So it's like she lost everything even more than just her parents in Michigan. Because Michigan was like her family as well. Almost like her dad. As Wendy's like, yeah, I'll be fine. Okay, if everything's okay, then good. But you mind later when we get the moment to talk alone, can you tell me about this dream? As Wendy shakes her head no, and like, I'd rather not talk about it. It's really personal. As Natsu understands, and he says, okay, I see. Well, if you ever do need someone to talk to, I will be here anytime you need me. As he zips back up the tent and walks away, as Wendy's thinking, he's so much like him. As a picture of a boy with pink hair comes into her mind. And then she gets out of the tent as one of the guildmates had made breakfast for everyone. As she doesn't know who it is, but she walks over, and she actually did come out of the tent about 20 minutes later after Natsu came over. And as she grabs a bowl and she takes a bite, she's surprised because usually the food on the fire tastes like crap. Like dried cardboard or something like that. As she's like, who made this? As Natsu is now in the woods right now, looking around the area, seeing which way they should go next, because he's trying to make sure that they don't go for a bad spot of land where they might run into mercenaries, because they'd rather not fight mercenaries. They only had to, sorry. Oh. They only want to fight mercenaries if they have to. Or anyone. Only if they have to. As Natsu, he finds the way is clear, so he starts heading back to camp. But with Wendy before Natsu gets there. One of the guildmates looks at Wendy, and will say it's Egil. And he's like, oh, that was Natsu. He made this for us. Pretty good cook, huh? Usually, stuff we get in the fire tastes like, something that, some kid made. That tastes like literal crap, or cardboard, or plastic, you know? Yeah, I know. That's why I was a little bit surprised when I took a bite. He's a good cook. As Egil gets closer to her and says, so you like him, don't you? As she's like, no, and she walks away and tries to get out of the confusion. As someone was actually listening in. And this someone happens to be that girl that acts like Mina with the, all lovey-dovey part. As she is going to scheme. But with Natsu, he arrives back at the camp and walks in and says, oh, hey everyone, we should get packed up and head off after you guys are done eating. Right after that, we are heading out because we gotta make haste to this camp village to make sure, see if we can find that flute. The earlier we get there, the less chance that a flute leaves that village. As they all agree and finish eating, well, Natsu had actually started packing up the tents with 2 other people that had already finished eating. As Natsu packed his tent and Wendy's tent, as the other 2 packed their tents and Egil's tent, because Egil and Wendy were still eating. And after all the stuff was packed, Natsu walks over to Wendy and hands her stuff and says, "Well, we have another full day of walking." Great. As Wendy's like, "Yeah, we do." As she looks him in the eyes and then looks away, as she's blushing just a tiny bit. And he says, "Okay, everyone, come on." As everyone has finished eating and has their stuff, they're walking, and as they're walking, the wind user in the back says, "I could make this trip a little bit faster if you're up for it." As Natsu turns around and says, "What do you mean you could make this trip faster?" And the wind user's like, "Well, I can, like, summon wind creatures. Anything that basically flies or has anything to do with wind, I can summon, and they'll help me out." As Natsu's like, grabs his head and he says, "Are you kidding me? Why didn't you tell us this before? We could probably be already at that village. If we would have been in flight's a lot faster than walking." As the guy and the girl that suggested this is like, because we're gonna say this girl is going to be the girl that acts like Mina, and this is part of this Mina girl scam, or her name's not Mina, but you know, the Mina personality girl of her mischief, actually, not scam. As she says, "I'm sorry, I'll summon a few." As she knows she can summon about 10 at once, but she's going to do something, and she already knows none of the other guildmates are going to do anything about it, because they all probably think the same thing, except for Wendy and Natsu, who are oblivious to each other, if you know what I mean, oblivious to each other. As she summons, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, okay? So she summons 2 birds, except they're huge. As the girl, she says, "We can fit 3 on a bird, but 2 people are gonna have to ride together." As the girl runs over to the 2 guys, which is Egil and the other dude, so that he's a wood style user. Like, he can use wood magic. As she grabs both of them by the wrists and pulls them over to one bird, and then turns around and says, "You 2 are riding that one." As Wendy knows exactly what's going on, she's like, "Why?" As Natsu's like, "Yeah, okay." As he walks off, and Wendy's like, he has no clue what she's doing. As the girl looks at Wendy and says, "Good luck." As those 3 get on the bird, and Wendy whispers, "I hate you right now." She doesn't literally hate her, but she's annoyed with her. As they're getting a bird, and they're gonna have to do like on a motorcycle, you know how the back holds on to the person in front. So as they get on, Wendy doesn't wrap her arms around Natsu at first, because she's like, "I'll just try to ride with that. It'll work. I'll just hold on to the feathers." As she grabs some of the feathers on the bird, as they take off. And Wendy almost fell off, but Natsu grabbed her arm and said, "Hey, just hold on to me and make sure you don't fall." as she wraps her arms around him, and as she's holding on to him, she's like, this is really embarrassing. As they continue. And as they're in flight about 3/4 of the way to the village they're trying to reach, Natsu says, so about last night, as Wendy's like, what about last night? As Natsu, he's just like, you think you can at least inform me about kind of what that dream was and why he came to me? And she's just like, I'm not gonna tell you what the dream is about, but I can tell you why I went to you. As Natsu, he says, that's good enough for me, as long as I can get some kind of answer from you. As Wendy's like, yeah, thank you. As she explains that she just had a really bad dream about her past, and she doesn't really want to talk about what happened in it. But the reason why that I went, and she says, but the reason why I went to you was because, well, as she blushes a tiny bit and says, when I'm with you, my dreams don't appear. And if I do have dreams, they're not bad ones, they're good ones. As she digs her face into his back and says, don't say anything. As Natsu's a little bit surprised, as he's like, oh. But she's completely oblivious, just like a lot of anime characters are. So his thoughts are, oh, okay. That's, cool. As he doesn't realize why. Which is meaning that Wendy actually has a crush on Natsu, but Natsu's oblivious to it, and apparently so is Lucy. Not Lucy, Wendy. As they are actually not going to start dating for a little while. But yeah, as they're flying through the sky and they reach the village, and they all swoop down to the village as they land, and everyone in the village is staring, thinking, what the heck? As giant birds just landed in the village. Excuse me. As some mages there are ready to fight, saying, what are you? Who are you and what are you doing here? As they think it's an attack, considering they're giant birds and they could probably do a lot of damage. As Natsu jumps off and says, hey, cool it, man. We're just stopping by. We're here to look for something. Nothing more, nothing less. Not here to cause any havoc. Sorry if we might have thought made you think that you were some kind of evil people. As some of them lower the guard and say, oh, sorry, man. Didn't mean to, almost attack you. Well, we did, but we thought you were evil. You know, bad people. And Natsu's like, yeah, I understand. You gotta be cautious in this world. And the guy walks away. As Natsu looks at Wendy and Eggy and says, okay, we're gonna split into groups. As he says, Wendy and Eggy, you'll be a group. And he says, you two extras will be a group, and I'll be my own group. As he says, listen, if you happen to run into a flute with any kind of wind symbol, even if it's a different color, you need to say something. Because this thing could be related in some way, or it could be the flute, just painted. As they all shake their head yes, and they all walk off, looking in different directions. As Natsu is walking down the street, he sees a flute shop, actually. So he walks over to it, and he goes inside. As there is a man there, sitting behind the counter. As the man looks up from his newspaper he was reading and says, hello, welcome to Flute Paradise, as I'm going to say the store's name. Welcome to Flute Paradise, how may I help you? As Natsu walks up to the man and says, this is probably the place that I probably get the best luck out of. As he says, I'm looking for a flute. As the guy reaches the back and says, here, pay for this, you can have it. Natsu's like, oh, I'm sorry, not a regular flute. It's more like I'm looking for information on a flute. If you maybe know of it. As the man, he's like, okay, I know a lot of flutes. I am the boss of this establishment because no one seems to want to help the old man run his flute shop. But, so, you do know that information around here isn't going to come without a little bit of money. You know that, right? Yeah, I guess that, but, you know, it is what it is, as he pulls out a sack of money and hands him a little bit out of it, just a tiny bit, not too much, and he says, will that be enough to tell me about the flute? And if you want any more, if I want any more information, I'll give you some more. As the man's like, this will be enough. What flute are you looking for exactly? As Natsu, he's like, I can't say the name, as he's thinking in his head. As he's like, oh, I'm looking for a flute that has, it's like about 6-7 inches long. It has a symbol of a god that is the wind god, and me and my buddies are trying to find it. It's a very powerful product, or piece of a tool that holds something dangerous inside, and if someone plays a certain song in it, it's going to release something. And let's just say, especially if it might be in this town, it could end up destroying this whole town along with you. As the man's like, heard of some powerful flutes that do some weird things. As the man gets up and goes in the back and says, give me a second, let me check something. He pulls out a big book that's about a foot thick. No, 6 inches thick, okay? As he opens the book and starts flipping through the pages, thinking, I've heard about something like this before. As he finds a page and he's like, is this your flute that you're looking for? As Natsu looks at it and he says, yeah, that is the flute. As the man's like, okay. Actually, that flute used to be in my possession, except I didn't know that it was this flute. It looked a tiny bit different. Just because of the old age, I'm guessing. But now that I look at it more, read this page, the flute's name is the same as the flute that I sold a few, about almost a month ago. As Natsu's like, who did you sell it to? And she's like, some man came in. He was carrying a scythe and he used wind magic and he bought it off of me. And Natsu's like, it is the flute. The same guy that I took down a little while back. As he's like, okay. So, sir, can you, is there any way to find this flute that you know of? Like, is there any way I could track it or find its vicinity it's in, or anything? As the man's like, usually I would charge money for more information like that, but considering what I'm reading on this page, it says that whatever's in that flute could destroy the world. One question before I give you this info. What are you trying to do with the flute? As Natsu, he looks at him and says, we're planning on stealing it from the people that buy it from you, because they're trying to use it to release whatever's inside of it. All they have to do is get the song, which they have, actually. They just haven't played it because people are practicing it on other flutes, I'm guessing. That's probably the reason why it has not been released yet. But if we can get our hands on that flute, me and my guild, Fairy Tale, are going to return it to its proper place behind security. As the old man's like, do I have your word on this? Because if you were someone bad that ends up trying to use the flute, I'd feel horrible for almost ending the world. As Natsu's like, you have my word. as a fairy tale member. If I use it for any evil, then you can here, as he hands the man a piece of like a dagger, and he says, this dagger right here can pierce my metal that I can create. It can pierce my metal and make it so it stops working for a certain time. So if I end up going rogue or something, give this to someone to take me down. As he hands the blade to the man. As the man's like, well then I'll believe you, but I'm still taking the blade, just in case. As the man knows the severe consequences of what might happen if the blade as the flute ends up in the wrong hands. As he says to natzu, well boy, the only way that I would suggest that you could probably find this flute would be to use another flute of mine. As he walks in the back and opens a case that he has and pulls out a small box. As he comes out to natzu again and says, here, the flute in here, it's the brother of the other flute, as you could say. It's made out of the same wood from the same tree. Except this flute, it's more of a, well, better version of that flute. The only thing it really does, though, is when you blow the flute, the sound will travel in more one direction than anywhere else. And that direction is where the flute is. But the only problem is that the only people that are possibly able to do that is I don't know if you've heard of this before, a dragon slayer, but not just any dragon slayer. You're gonna need a water dragon slayer. As Natsu's like, water? As the man says, yes, water dragon slayer. This is a water flute. Because there were a total of, give me a second here, I'll pause the video. There were a total of 5 flutes that were made from that tree. There was an earth flute, there was a lightning flute, the fire flute, the wind flute, and the water flute. And they all attract each other. I only have this one, but usually this would be a lot of money. But I know the circumstances, so take it. The only thing I ask is that you return this flute to me. As Natsu shakes his head and says, I'll do that, as long as it doesn't, break. As the man says, well, you break it, then you're going to be breaking it behind for me. You're going to be working for me for the next year. Got it? And she's like, yeah. As Natsu says, okay, I gotta go. As he goes out and he looks around and he finds the 2 extras that were looking around. He says, hey, you two, I got some info. We need to all meet up again. As they all end up meeting up after they find Wendy and Egil, and Wendy's like, so, you guys found something? As Natsu says, it was me that found it. I found it in a flute shop down the street, about a few blocks down. The old man in there, it turns out he's the one that sold the flute to the Dark Guild. Of course, he didn't know it was a Dark Guild, he just knew it was a wizard, and he didn't even know the flute held that type of power. But he gave me this. Apparently there were 5 flutes made out of that tree, as we have one of them. And he didn't... Hey guys, sorry, my thing cut out again, but I was able to make sure it wasn't deleted this time. Luckily, that was the case because it was like 40 minutes, almost 40 minutes long. But let's continue where we just got cut off at. He didn't say anything about us needing all the flutes to find it. He just said that we need this flute, and it will attract them. But we have a problem. As they're like, problem? What do you mean we have a problem? You remember that water dragon slayer that attacked us a little while back? That ended up getting away at the end. I'm not sure if she got away, if I had to get away, but I'm gonna have her get away now. Say she got away, or let's say, they don't know if she got away, okay? She broke out of prison, and they don't know yet. Or they broke out before she even got to prison. But she's like, the girl that attacked us. The flute can only work if a water dragon slayer uses the water flute. I don't know if I said it was a water flute. Pretty sure I said it was a... I think I said water flute, maybe? But if I didn't, it's a water flute. As she's like, only a water dragon slayer mage can activate it. It'd be so much easier if it was just a regular mage. Of course, dragon slayer. Of course. As he's like, okay, we're gonna need to go to that prison and get her. Hopefully she'll cooperate. Probably won't, but you know, as someone is actually listening into this conversation, as the guy that was listening in runs away into a house nearby, and he's like, "Sir, we have a big problem." As when he walks in, a man with let's say green hair that reaches down to his shoulders looks at the guy that just ran into the room and says, "Oh yeah? So, what's this problem?" Sir, I was outside and I was walking, and I found some people that were talking." "Get to the point already." Sorry, they were talking about the flute. They're talking about stopping it and finding the flute. If they succeed, then they can get the flute before we're able to use it. As he's like, okay, do you know how they're planning on trying to find this flute? As the guy's like, yeah, I listened into their whole conversation. They said they need a water dragon slayer because the flute was made out of a tree, as all flutes are. But there were also 4 other flutes made other than that one, and each one has their own ability depending on how you want them to be used. And the ability of the water flute is to track down the other flutes. And they need a water dragon slayer. They know where one is. And the green-haired man's like, okay, do you happen to know where this is at? We need to get that water dragon slayer on our side. Then there will be nothing that can stop us. As they're like, yes, they said something about the prison. I'm not sure which prison though, they just said the prison. As the man, he's like, send out word to all prisons, all our eyes in the prison, all our eyes and ears in the prison, that we're looking for a water dragon slayer, and if they have one, to bring them to us. But we gotta move out of this town. If they're here, then, especially if it's Fairy Tale. I don't know if it's them, but Fairy Tale is probably our biggest threat. As he walks out of the house with the flute in hand, but makes sure to stuff it into his pocket. As he walks off, acting like normal. As he makes a turn and he sees a boy with pink hair and black tips with a girl with blue hair. As he's walking and he's like, oh crap, as he sees a Fairy Tale symbol on the boy's shoulder, as his sleeve is actually rolled up right now. And he's thinking, I gotta get out of here before the boy notices. As he just continues walking like normal, trying to act normal, which it succeeds, and he gets away. As Natsu did see the man's face, but didn't question it, because he thought it was a normal citizen that was just walking by. As we go back to Natsu's perspective, completely. So, what do you want to do, Wendy? We need to find this person, or go to the prison, but I don't know if they'll allow us to take her. As Wendy's like, well, this may be our only chance. We have to go there and look. The best we can. As Natsu is like, I agree. Egyo, you think so? Yes, I think we should go here too. If this is that water dragon slayer we need, then it's the water dragon slayer we will find. As they all shake their head in agreement along with the extras. As we're gonna say that they are planning on to go and find this girl. As they do the same thing and get in the birds and fly away. And they get to the jail. As they walk into the prison. And they're going through these scanners and, metal detectors and everything. As it starts beeping when Natsu walks to the metal detector. As the guards get up and start pointing their magic at Natsu, and Natsu's like, "Oh, whoa, it's my magic." And they're like, "Your magic? What do you mean your magic?" As they start charging their magic up really, really far, about to blast Natsu. He's like, I have iron magic, like I can control iron, and some of my body is like iron in a way." As they're like, "Prove it. Show us, and then it depends if we'll let you pass." As he takes his hand and turns it into iron. As they're like, "Okay." As they put down their guard and say, "We'll allow you to go in, but you're gonna need to wear magic canceling cuffs to make sure none of you can use your magic while you're in here." As they get them on them, but they're not like cuffs, like prisoner cuffs. They're like a bracelet that goes around their wrist that cannot be taken off only by the guards that work there, and only the higher up guards. As they walk in and they go to the warden's office, and they walk into the warden's office, and the warden is actually an acquaintance of Natsu, because Makarov brought some people to the jail once, and Natsu came with Makarov because they were training a little bit, as Natsu wanted Makarov to train him a little bit. As he walks in, the warden's like, "Oh, Drekon, it's you. What business do you have here at my prison?" As Natsu walks up to him and says, "Well, sir, remember that water dragon slayer I sent to you?" As the warden is the only one that knows that it's a dragon slayer. She's like, "Yes, what about her?" And he says, "Well, we're gonna need her for a really important mission." As he explains the whole situation with the flute, the man's like, "I'm sorry, Natsu. I can't help you with this." As Natsu's like, "Why? I just explained to you what happened. What will happen if the person blows that flute? We need her." As he says, I would be willing to help you, but the thing is, the dragon slayer that you sent to us, she never arrived. When we sent out a scouting party to look for the people that were bringing her, we found them, and it was a horrific sight. All the men were slaughtered, and there was no one left alive, except for one younger guard that was guarding the caravan. Luckily, we were able to save his life, but he can't talk right now. As he explains what the boy said right before he passed out, as he says we're gonna go to that. We're gonna do a flashback as one of the guards is standing over the boy and helps him up. Not helps him up, but picks him up and says, "Boy, are you okay? What happened here?" As he opens his eyes just a little bit, he says, "You were attacked. I don't know by who, but they all wore black hoods, and they used different types of magic. I don't know who they were, but they were strong. They wiped us out in an instant. None of us could even fight back. Not even a little bit. And they helped the water mage escape." As no one knows it was the water dragon slayer, so they just refer to her as the water mage. As the guy's like, "Okay, you need to stop talking, but I'll make sure I get you to a hospital." As a man brings him to a hospital. End of flashback. After that's what the man told the guys, Natsu and everyone that happened. As Natsu's like, "Oh, crap, gotta find her." What do we do? As Natsu punches the wall and says, "Damn it!" Wait, sorry. Actually, yeah, I'll just say "dang it." "Dang it!" As he says actually the D word, but I'm not allowed to say that kind of stuff, and if I got caught saying it, I'd be in deep trouble, and then I wouldn't be able to post. I might even have my YouTube channel deleted by my parents, so, rather just not. As he yells, "Dang it! Why? It was so close!" See his anger in his eyes. He's like, "No!" As he rushes out of there and runs out of the prison after getting his bracelet off, and Wendy and everyone is trying to catch up to him, but they were stopped at the gate because they had to get their bracelets taken off. As they get their bracelets taken off, they run after Natsu and they find him, as he is sitting in the forest against a tree, with his knees up and his head between them, with his hands on his face, as he is looking distressed. As Wendy's like, "Hey, you guys, go back to town. Not back to town, but go, set up camp. I'll go talk to him." As they reply and say, "Yeah, we'll go do that." As they walk away, Wendy walks towards Natsu and says, "Hey Natsu, or hey Drakon, are you okay?" As he's like, "No, I'm not okay." Of course, we were so close. If we don't find that mage, and there's a high chance that whatever they're planning, it's going to kill a lot of people. Families, children's mothers, fathers, brothers and sisters. It's my fault. If I would have gone with them and delivered her, the Slayer myself, this wouldn't have happened." As Wendy's like, it's not your fault, Natsu, or Drakon, it's not." As Wendy hugs him and says, "Listen, things happen, and there's nothing we can do about it, but except for one thing, which is try to fix it. If you really do think this is your fault, which I personally think it's not, but if you do, then stand tall and fix it. Fix the problem that you think you caused and make it right. Prove that you are a fairy tale wizard. Prove that fairy tale, your guild, isn't just a pushover, and that you do mean to save everyone. So stand up and believe in yourself and your comrades. And you can lean on other people once in a while. I've noticed that you actually don't like to lean on people. You get close to them, but you don't get so close. You call people family, but you don't really act like it. As Natsu's like, I'm sorry, you're right. But I have my own reasons for not leaning on people so much. As Wendy's like, okay, you want to talk about it? As Natsu, he says, I'd rather not. Plus, what would be the point? I mean, I can barely remember my own past. For all I know, I could have been one of these people that were helping with this flute capturing. Who knows? I could have been some bad guy that did a bunch of horrible stuff. That's one reason why I'm afraid to get my memory back. I'm afraid of what'll happen to me if I'll be different, you know? Yeah, I know what you mean. But listen, whoever or whatever you become after you get your memories, I believe that it'll be better for you. I believe that it won't be something bad. I believe it'll be something good. As he's like, thank you, Wendy. You know, I don't know why, but you've always talked me down. As Wendy says, yeah, I've been like that to a lot of people. As she gets up and says, I'm gonna let you have your time alone. I'm gonna head back to camp. As she takes off and says, see you at camp. Yeah, okay, Wendy. As after Wendy has left about 10 minutes later, Natsu stands up and says, okay. I got. Let's make this right. As he walks off to camp. And that's where I'm going to end it, because I can't be for sure because the video says only 17 minutes long, but I don't know how long the other part of the video is, but I think it's like an hour, maybe a little bit over, or a little bit less. But I know it's close to an hour. So, yeah. But, I'm gonna end it, and I hope that you guys like... Ooh. Sorry, excuse me. I hope you guys liked it. And if you guys did notice, I did more lovey-dovey stuff with Natsu and Wendy this time. I actually was testing something. I would like you to comment down below if you guys liked a lot of the lovey-dovey stuff that I did. I'm trying to expand my reach of things I do in my what ifs, because I know some people like to hear the love stories, so I can add action and love to both, but this was mainly just more of a love episode or part. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more content, and stay safe, hope you're with the people you love, and peace out.